So in February of 2020, right before my birthday and right before COVID, I took a solo trip out to California and Arizona. I took a plane to Los Angeles. I was walking by the former Hollywood Hawaiian Hotel. I was staring at my non-existent coffee cup. From a Warren Zevon song called Desperados Under the Eaves. Then I walked up and down the Hollywood Boulevard just to see some of the stars. I took an Uber up to the Griffith Observatory because I wanted to hike to Hollywood Summit, right? I was determined to make it before sundown, even though I was quickly losing my light. And at the time, my blog, which is now retired, had Captain in the username, so of course I wanted to hike by Captain's Roost. The clouds quickly rolled in and made me want to get off the mountain ASAP, but I had to get to the summit first. And by then, the Hollywood sign was just socked in the clouds. I was cool AF, according to the live feed temperature sensor camera they had in the observatory. I stayed in a hostel where I was the only American. I had suite mates from London, New Zealand, and Belgium. I took an Uber again up to the observatory the next day because I wanted to hike down. So normally I hate weddings, but I did happen to see a couple doing their wedding photos at the Griffith Observatory, which was really cute, I gotta say. It was windy AF. I had to stop and be very artistic with some clever shots. And then I got into like tree cover instead of just like brush and like desert kind of biome. And a nice little river, and possibly a redwood? I don't know. There was some debate when I looked up if there were redwoods in Los Angeles, and people were like, oh yeah, there's at least 3. Legit or not, I'm going on this trail. Well, I really wanted to go along this trail, but something, not Snorlax, was blocking my path, so I climbed up and over and around it. I called an Uber once I got down to the bottom of my hike because I had a Warner Brothers studio tour booked. Anybody who knows me knows I love musicals, especially
the music band. And you will see how much it changed when they started to film in here.
Midwest Street was turned into River City, Iowa for the film version of the Broadway musical, The Music Man. The town square also stood in as Salinas, California for East of Eden. You'll see Midwest Street on a lot of television shows. In fact, it was turned into all of Stars Hollow for the hit series Gilmore Girls.
no electricity because the directors go and strip it after production. He says that they have somebody outside to pump water whenever they film.
They currently filming a new episode of The Fuller House here. Come like in Paris in 1942, and this become Pierre Café in Casablanca. Over there, it's the original fountain from Fern.
Oh.
Another great movie with Autry Fern called Wait Until Dark. Her apartment's supposed to be here. They did another classic movie with Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, called it Robin and the Seven Who. This is gonna be the decoration like a Mexican restaurant. Yeah, for young Sheldon. Everything is ready to go. It's Sparks Kitchen, young Sheldon comic book store. They put a little ticket that means it's rented by the producer. Now, this is not the original piano, this is replica. The original was sold in New York in auction, $3 million. It's a blanket that's when they are inside filming. Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
You can see there is a small plaque with her name outside Ellen.
At the end of the tour, I'm about to leave the gift shop and some guy is just giving out tickets to Conan. I was picked for a pre-show dance contest and I won a shirt, which was awesome. I decided to go out at night, just walk around to see more of the sights in downtown, and I had to see the Alan Menken sign, of course. I took one of those Lime scooters back to the hostel. The next day, I picked up a rental car, a Hyundai Elantra that I nicknamed Hermes. The second song that came on shuffle was Ben Rector's Drive, like a river connect, which immediately set the tone for the rest of the trip. As I was checking directions, I got on 210, the Foothill Freeway, and I saw a stretch of road on Google Maps that said 66. I had a date for the aerial tramway. The ride up is 11 minutes one way. It rotates about 3 times around, so no one has a bad spot to stand.
Both cars are tied together by the hauling cables, which move with the cars. You see, the drive system at the Valley Station is pulling that car down, and in turn is pulling us up.
It was 18 degrees at the top, so again, glad to have my winter coat. I saw the Salton Sea off in the distance. Towards Palm Springs, you can see the San Andreas Fault. You think going up the tram would trigger my fear of heights? Nope, it was a see-through steps. I wanted to hike more around the Mount San Jacinto State Park, but going down's easy, but then you have to come all the way back up like the Grand Canyon, and I didn't have anybody to pick me up at the bottom. Also, it was getting on sundown, and there were only so many trams back down for the day. Where do big fucking trees come from? Big fucking pine cones. I love BFTs, man. The guidebook, The Conifers of Long Valley, says this is a Jeffrey pine. The bark is reddish brown, smells like vanilla or butterscotch candy. They're about 90 to 100 feet and live up to 500 years. Very cool. When you roll into Palm Springs, the elevation is about 500 feet. The base of the tramway is 2,600 feet. And the top of the tramway is 8,500 feet. There were windmills everywhere. I was very happy considering the number of golf courses that are in Palm Springs made me like want to hate it. But then I saw the windmills. I'm like, okay. Next day, I went to Whitewater Preserve. I had heard good things. It was relatively new to the national park system, like only since the Obama administration. The place doesn't open till 8. John Muir's my boy, and I had a glorious hike. There were a couple of bird watchers. My turnaround point was a lone Cholla cactus. I checked in the visitor center and hiked for probably another half a mile. It was just an out and back trail, but I liked it. There was really nobody else out. California incense cedar is one of the many reasons why the air smelled so good. For those who say, going on a solo trip is dangerous, I will have you know I didn't go solo. Princess was with me the whole time. Great traveling companion. So we headed into Palm Springs for some lunch, and I checked out their Star Walk of Fame. I too would like to have a Palm Springs star that says local idiot one day. When I drove along I-10, it looked like a whole new planet, like I was on Tatooine or something. I got to the south entrance of Joshua Tree. The Cottonwood Visitor Center, definitely the way to go. Joshua trees only grow where the Mojave Desert meets the Colorado Desert at a certain elevation. They are threatened by global warming. I only saw a few other cars, like just at the visitor center. That was it. I stopped at every pull-off that I could see, just so I could look at everything. Oh, this sign was missing. I was disappointed. I wanted to know what it had said. I got to Cholla Cactus Garden. Sharp and pointy, not soft and squishy, do not touch. It was the annoying white boys in college caravan that I got stuck behind. And the sun was starting to sink. I had not encountered a Joshua tree at this point. And so I started seeing the baby pineapple heads, and finally I got to Cap Rock. I record a song, and then I book it because I want to go to Keys View for sunset. And I just barely got there. This is elevation 5,000 feet. There's really not reception or service in the park, so it would be a guessing game if I could make it to my hotel at Twentynine Palms before it was completely dark. Joshua Tree at night, or after there's no sun, gives the coolest landscapes. Look at this. Well, I ended up driving for a little over 45 minutes in complete darkness. I see the blue door and I want to paint it yellow. I was very excited to see the sunrise. I started my trip before the sun was up. The gates aren't open, but they still allow cars to drive through. Sure, I didn't get to see the sunrise from Keys View, but I did get something that I felt was much more intimate. I posted that separately on my YouTube. There was no other human souls around for miles. I went to Ryan Ranch Trailhead. There's this super large rock formation that shadows the rest of the valley from the rising sun. The whole place looked like something out of Dr. Seuss's imagination. But going up to the ruins of Ryan Ranch, this was an out and back trail. I wasn't blinded by the sun the whole way up, and returning, the sun was at my back. My first encounter with another human was at Cap Rock. There was a drone operator. The elevation at Cap Rock is about 4,200 feet. Cap Rock is known as the place where Graham Parsons' body was cremated. His friends stole his body and the casket and decided to burn it there based on a pact that they had made before he overdosed. And then I made my way back up to Keys View. It was like 35 degrees, fierce wind. And then, I'm not sure if this is a mistake or maybe an unhappy accident, but I hiked the Minerva Hamilton Hoyt Trail. I was an idiot who misread the map. I thought it was a 1.5 mile loop. It was an out and back without an ounce of shade. Lesson learned, the desert always wins. My feet hurt, so I drove to a picnic area, just sat for a minute. I watched some birds. And I didn't want to waste the time that I still had left in the day, so there was another shorter hike. This is a quote from Edward Abbey. "It seems to me that the strangeness and wonder of existence are emphasized here, in the desert, by the comparative sparsity of the flora and fauna. Life not crowded upon life. With the generous gift of space for each herb and bush and tree, each stem of grass, so that the living organism stands out bold and brave and vivid against the lifeless sand and barren rock." I left through the Twentynine Palms entrance because I wanted to stop in the daylight at the dinosaur statues. Meep meep. I took 62 and drove back to Palm Springs. It was really gorgeous, especially with the sun setting as it was. Oh my god, I really wanted to hike at Santa Snow National Monument, but it was getting towards darkness and there were cougar warning signs and I was a lone hiker. So instead, I went back in the saddle again saw the Gene Autry statue. I went to visit Frank Sinatra's grave, and written on it, "The best is yet to come." You quickly lose your light once the sun goes down over the mountains. This was a change in my original plan. I had kept seeing signs about the Salton Sea, so I thought I'd go visit. It's a 4.4% salt water, unfortunately man-made lake. There was a dam that had broke, and all of the water just collected here and stayed. The elevation is about 200 feet below sea level. Now it's a bird sanctuary that stretched on farther than I could see, mostly because of the haze. It's so bright here that I couldn't read the digital tuner. Like, I couldn't see my phone screen, I couldn't see my computer screen. Most of my photos ended up being overexposed and in some cases unusable. I had an itinerary. I knew I would end up in San Diego soon, so I wanted to enjoy every second of road that took me there. So I took the Palms to Pines Scenic Byway. I stopped at every pull-off. I took way too many pictures. There was a paved hike in the San Bernardino National Forest. It is so peaceful out here. So I was making my way up and over the desert side and got more into the forest side. Saw some lizards, saw some cool birds. If you take this scenic byway, you will end up, well, I don't know where you ended up, but my turnaround point was Lake Hemet. Big fucking trees. With the aerial tramway, you get one side of the San Jacinto State Park, and from Palms to Pines Scenic Byway, you get the other side of the state park, which is really cool. I could have spent time there, but I had a mission. Big fucking pine cones over half the size of my completely average size foot are known to produce big fucking trees. And then I backtrack a little bit and got on the road that I was supposed to take, going over through Anza. Perfect timing. I tried to catch some good sunset views in Temecula, but I ended up very unhappy because it was a suburban hellscape with manicured lawns and even a pro-Trump rally. A thank you, friends. I had a timeline to stick to, so I couldn't stop at this one hiking spot. Plus, there weren't any parking spots available because it was Saturday. I went to the San Diego Botanic. I could have spent probably several days here. My first view of the ocean. Ah yes, my scientific name, the Dinosaurius bitchin'. I ended up driving along the coast, but I didn't stop till La Jolla. I wore my The Ocean Just Gets Me socks. Sure, I had seen the Pacific Ocean before when I was in Lima, but I hadn't seen it from California, never been this far west before. Rock me on the water, sister, won't you soothe my fevered brow? Oh yeah, rock me on the water, I'll get down to the sea somehow. I love the seals, love them, love them, love them, seals and sea lions. The drive to El Cajon was beautiful, very hilly. My buddy Adam was renting a room at this guy's house, and he happened to have a spare room, so I stayed. I could get used to a view like this from my backyard. We went the next morning to Cabrillo National Monument, and also the Maritime Museum, where I could have spent days. Adam made a joke that I happened to go to San Diego for the 2 days that it rains the whole year. I got to see something that not a lot of tourists, in my opinion, get to see. But unfortunately, it meant that I had to outrun a storm all the way over to Tucson, Arizona. Just passed a sign that said elevation 4,000 feet. This is what I have to look forward to, driving across the desert in a monsoon. The car I rented had the lane assist, which was really cool. I've never driven a car like that before. It was almost like autopilot. This is normally what the landscape looks like without the rain. And here's what I saw the whole way over. A sudden storm comes sweeping over the plains. The air is torn as lightning rips it again. The world's reborn in the harsh cleansing rain when you're riding the winds of the west. Apparently I'm racing a train. I was flying real low along I-8. That's the border wall. Of course I flipped it off when I drove by. Remember how I said I was racing a train? Well, I guess I was. Woo! Welcome to Arizona, the Grand Canyon State.